Welcome to my channel French Pulse. Let's enjoy learning French. Today we are going to learn le plusque parfait. First, let's learn the formation of the verb plusque parfait, this tense. Conjugate the auxiliary verb in l'imparfait and add the past participle of the given verb. This is also a compound tense. We've come across passé composé, we've come across futur antérieur. This is the third compound tense we are learning, that is plusque parfait. From the name parfait, you can understand that we need to use l'imparfait of avoir or être as auxiliary verb plus past participle. So this is the formation. Let's take an example with avoir, manger. J'avais mangé, tu avais mangé, il elle avait mangé, nous avions mangé, vous aviez mangé, il elle avait mangé. So we write out the auxiliary verb. I've taken an example of avoir in l'imparfait plus the past participle. The past participle remains the same throughout. We have seen that already. Let's take an example with a verb that takes auxiliary être. Let's look at the conjugation of the verb venir in plusque parfait. Now, venir is a verb. Remember, we learned that venir is a verb that takes être as auxiliary. So here, this has to be j'étais venu, tu étais venu, il était venu, elle était venue. You need to add an E. Nous étions venus, add an S. Vous étiez venus, add an S. Ils étaient venus, add an S. And elles étaient venues with an ES. Now, let's look at some more examples. Let's look at the reflexive verb se promener. Je m'étais promené, tu t'étais promené, il s'était promené, elle s'était promenée, add an extra E with elle, feminine, singular. Nous nous étions promenés, add an S. Vous vous étiez promené, add an S. Il s'était promené, add an S. Elle s'était promenée, add an ES because it's feminine and plural. Let's look at how to conjugate in the negative form. Let's look at the formation in negative. Let's take the same examples. Je n'avais pas mangé. So this is a compound tense. Remember, we use ne. We put ne before the auxiliary verb and pas after the auxiliary verb and then the past participle. So that's what we've done here. Je n'avais pas mangé. Elle n'était pas venue. We've taken an example with auxiliary être. And then we see a reflexive verb. Il ne s'était pas promené. Let's look at some more examples. Let's see the same sentences in the interrogative form. Avait-elle mangé? Étiez-vous venu? We need to add an S because vous, it's plural. So we've got the auxiliary verb, then the subject pronoun, and then the past participle. Because this is plusque parfait, the auxiliary verb is conjugated in imparfait. And then a reflexive verb, s'était-elle promenée? Promenée, elle, so we need to add an extra E. Now we've learned the formation of plusque parfait. When do we use it? Let's learn that. In English, plusque parfait corresponds to the past perfect tense. Now, plusque parfait expresses an action that took place before another past action. When plusque parfait is used in a sentence, the second action will be passé composé or l'imparfait, which indicates that one action took place before the other. When do we use plusque parfait? Let's see the first rule. Conjunction of time plus first action that took place is plusque parfait, and the second action would be either passé composé or l'imparfait. Now, what are the conjunction of time? Let's look at a few conjunctions of time. Quand, lorsque, which means when. Aussitôt que, dès que, which means as soon as. Après que, after, etc. So let's take an example. Lorsqu'il est arrivé à la gare, le train était déjà parti. So there are two actions taking place. He went to the station, but the train had already left. So we have to see the first action that happened, the train left. So that is going to be conjugated in Plusque parfait, and the second action will be conjugated in passé composé or l'imparfait depending on the situation. Let's look at another example. Quand elle arrivait chez lui, il dash déjà quitté la maison. So what's the action which took place first? When she arrived at his place, he had already left the house. So his leaving the house is the first action, and the second action is she arriving, right? She arrived there. So this action which takes place first has to be plusque parfait, and when we have déjà, déjà is supposed to be placed between auxiliary verb and the past participle. So quand il avait déjà, remove it from here, quitté, and what happens here? Elle est arrivée. Now we need to add an extra E. Let's read the sentence. Quand elle est arrivée chez lui, il avait déjà quitté la maison. So the first action is going to be in plusque parfait, and the second action is going to be in passé composé or l'imparfait depending on the situation. In this sentence, it indicates it's a one-time action where she arrived. And why we're using être here? Because arriver is a verb that takes être as auxiliary, and elle, the subject pronoun, is feminine, so we need to add an extra E. Now, the first rule, so we learned with conjunction of time, the first action that took place is going to be plusque parfait, and the second action will be either passé composé or l'imparfait depending on the situation. Let's look at the second example. Let's look at the second rule. With il y a plus longtemps, we use plusque parfait. Let's take an example. Il y a longtemps, il voir un film. So, il avait vu un film. Il y a longtemps, vous dash visitez votre oncle. Vous aviez visité votre oncle. So, we have seen the formation of plusque parfait and when to use it. I hope you have understood the formation as well as when to use plusque parfait. Click the link in the description box for exercise on plusque parfait. Like, share and subscribe to my channel. Au revoir et à bientôt.